One drink, one bad decision, and in the next 10 minutes, your entire life could change forever. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. And it starts like this. 1 minute, you're standing on the side of the road, blue and red lights flashing in your eyes. And the next, you're sitting in a cold, windowless room under flickering fluorescent lights. A police officer leans in, holds up the tube for the breath machine, and says, "Blow into this." And just like that, you think it's over. Case closed. But it's not. Not even close. That's the lie the government wants you to believe. Fail the breath test, you're guilty. Game over. Most people do fold. They take the plea deal at the first chance, walk into court already defeated. But here's what they don't tell you. That belief is one of the biggest lies I watch unravel in Florida courtrooms every single week. If you don't know how to fight back, you're not just looking at a conviction, you're standing at the edge of a cliff. No license, no job offers, thousands of dollars wasted on high-risk FR44 insurance, permanent record branding you as that person. But in the next few minutes, I'll show you how people just like you walked into courtrooms with everything stacked against them and walked right back out without a DUI conviction. Stick around, because I'll show you how they did it and how you can too. Reason number one, the rising alcohol defense. Let me tell you about one of my clients. We'll call him Bob. Now, Bob isn't a criminal. He's a husband, a father. He's worked a blue-collar job his entire life. One night, he had a drink before heading home, and then those flashing lights appeared. That was the moment Bob had to decide, fold or fight back. 2.5 hours later, after the traffic stop, after the roadside exercises, after the long, anxiety-inducing ride to jail, Bob blew a 0.11. Most people think that's it. But here's the truth. Florida is a time of driving state. What matters is your blood alcohol content while you were actually driving, not what it was at the station or at the jail hours later. Alcohol takes time to hit. Chug a beer, you don't feel it right away, but give it 20, 30 minutes, you're buzzed, it hits. By the time Bob took that breath test, his blood alcohol content had climbed far beyond what it was when he was actually driving. And the officer's report helped us prove it. He wrote that Bob had a strong odor of an alcoholic beverage on his breath. Now, that doesn't mean he was drunk. It means he drank recently. That's it. They also said they found an open container. The cop thought that sealed Bob's fate. We use it to show that he more likely drank recently, given its presence in the car, right before the traffic stop. My advice, Bob stood his ground. You know what happened? That case was reduced to reckless driving. Bob kept his job, kept his license, and when he walked out of that courtroom, sunlight on his face, he didn't just survive. He won. Reason number two, the 20-minute observation rule. Now meet another client. We'll call him Daniel. Daniel didn't just take this lying down. He walked into court determined to clear his name. He was an immigrant and couldn't accept a DUI conviction. But that night, under harsh floodlights, camera rolling, Daniel stood there doing the field sobriety exercises. And the whole time, chewing gum. It was right there on video. He did the exercises, still chewing. He was driven to the station, still chewing. And right before the breath test, the officer finally says, "Hey, spit that out." Then Daniel blew a 0.19, nearly 2.5 times the legal limit. But we knew better. Florida law says officers must watch you continuously for 20 minutes before a breath test. Not sit in the room, not glance up from their paperwork every so often. Continuous observation. And gum? That's not just harmless. Gum contains sugar alcohols. The machine doesn't necessarily know the difference between alcohol from gum or from vodka. It could be a false positive on the machine. Daniel refused to accept that bogus result. Taking my advice, he fought back. You know what happened? That case was reduced to reckless driving too. Daniel walked out free. License in hand, life intact, residency intact. He didn't just avoid the conviction, he stood up for himself and saved his future in this country. Reason number 3, calibration errors and radio frequency interference. Now meet my client, Sarah, not more than 22 or 23 years old. Sarah was accused of blowing a 0.33 blood alcohol content. That's comatose level intoxication. But there she was, walking, talking, passing sobriety exercises like a pro, like she was heading to brunch. How? Because the machine was wrong. Florida still uses the Intoxilizer 8000, a machine invented in 2002. Back when we used flip phones and dial-up internet, and this old machine, it's highly sensitive to something called radio frequency interference. Let me explain. These machines are designed to measure alcohol on your breath. But they're so outdated, they pick up interference from nearby electronics. Body cameras, most commonly, police radios, even cell phones. It's like trying to have a conversation with static blasting in your ears. And what did the officer do in this case? He just restarted the machine without removing the devices causing the interference. That's like rebooting your Wi-Fi while someone's still cutting the cable line outside. So we pulled the FDLE logs. That's the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Every machine has a serial number associated with it. And we pulled the logs for our machine, and those logs showed that this machine had consistent interference issues on all the runs this month. The officer even admitted it in his report that there was radio frequency interference right before the test. That's the error that showed up on the machine. The guy really thought restarting it did something. On my advice, Sarah didn't accept the government's version of events. She fought back. You know what happened? That case was reduced. She didn't just win, she reclaimed her future. Now let's recap. How did Bob, Daniel, and Sarah beat impossible odds? Number 1, rising alcohol defense. Your blood alcohol content can rise after driving. 20-minute observation period. Number 2, if the officer wasn't watching, that test could be thrown out, could have thrown up in your mouth. Number 3, calibration errors and radio frequency interference. And the government doesn't want you to know about any of this. Now, here's the truth. The people who walk free, they aren't lucky. They're fighters. They refuse to let one mistake write the final chapter of their story. If you're staring down a DUI charge, call me. We'll sit down, review every second of the government's evidence, and take their case apart piece by piece. Because when it comes to your freedom, when it comes to your future, you're better safer than sorry.